bowling ball going back and forth in a line from you to me.
There are mathematical formulas which you
Yeah,
can
when
apply.
you actually just, I want to show that to the reader because I just want them to see what you've done here. So Marcus has put in formulas here, him and Trevor. And just to give you an idea, I'm not going to read through it here, but it's in the book. Marcus provides, he backs up everything with math here, um, which is good, him and Trevor.
Yeah,
So just to let the viewer know. And it's pretty straightforward actually. When you read through the equations,
yeah,
my
yeah,
math is a little rusty after 45, almost 50 years out of school, but I still got some basic math, algebra, physics, so I understand it very well. I understand exactly what you're saying here. So
yeah.
it's anything you want to add before we move on to chapter 16? We're doing really well here. We're getting through some chapters.
Yeah, no, we're doing well. No, just check it out. I mean, there's film of it. We've put them all up on the website.
Yeah, and again, Marcus has provided for an app for the Apollo missions he's specifically talking about here in relation to
Yeah,
this chapter. So app 15.03, you'll be
yeah.
able to follow that. And the link is on page 17, which I'll link down below anyway for the viewers that they can just click in on that.
And
Shall we move on to Apollo 16?
well, just one passing
Sure, yeah.
thought. There's a reference to the film Make Believe, Smoke and Mirrors,
Ah, yes, I was going to mention that.
which
Yes,
shows how it was done.
yes, yes.
Make Believe, Smoke and Mirrors. If you haven't watched it, it's a necessary thing for Apollo proponents and Apollo detractors to check out because it does explain the technical aspects of it. It's 2 hours 44 minutes long. There's now a good subtitles to it so you can understand what's being said and why it's
Yeah.
being said. We don't know who
Okay.
made the film. He's never come forward, but that is on uh, app 7.03 and 7.04. Anybody wants to check it out on the website.
It
Okay.
sounds like a whistleblower or somebody had inside information. That's what it sounds like to
Yes,
me.
I think
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so moving on to chapter 16. Now, this chapter gets very involved and detailed. I've had went through some great challenges here in terms of paring it down to a couple of paragraphs. So I'm not going to get into the actual nitty-gritty details. It's just too much here. But what
okay.
I will do is read some salient points, and then Marcus will
Yeah.
definitely expand on this. Let's start with I'll read this first paragraph. It's on the first page, page 115, and it's the third paragraph down. And
Okay.
this will this will be the basis from what you're talking about.
Yeah.
On the moon, there is no atmosphere, so dust particles cannot get suspended and will fall immediately to the ground, pulled in by gravity. Now, people need to understand what this really means is, and most of you do, but some of them, there's no air resistance. There's no resistance at all on the lunar surface. So dust particles rising should fall immediately. Here, it floats. It slows down, so it floats as it's on Earth. It'll float down to the surface. This applies to any dust particle irrespective of the particle size. So seeing that dust clouds on the moon is a physical impossibility.
Yeah.
Marcus, just expand on that for a little bit and then I'll read on further.
Okay. Because there is no atmosphere, obviously there is no air resistance to any of the particles. We're talking about the um, Apollo 16 Lunar Grand Prix, where you have the lunar rover being driven across the surface, and we see dust clouds coming up behind it. But the dust clouds are in the form of what are called rooster tails, which is what
Yeah,
you get on Earth. When you get a car going along, it will kick up the dust from the wheels as the wheels go through the dust. If it's a loose surface, it will kick up the dust, and they appear to form what are called rooster tails, which are little
I got it right here.
clouds forming behind it. Anybody who's ever seen any of the Paris-Dakar rally in Saudi Arabia, which is full of sand, that's it. That's the one. You'll see the
Now,
clouds. The clouds are huge following it, following the
yeah,
car. You know,
And they suspend, right?
yeah, they're suspended in the air because they're quite light particles. Now, on the moon, there's no air to suspend anything, but we don't see that. On the moon, we see dust
Can you see
being,
that?
yeah, the lower of those two illustrations show what happened on the moon. The dust appears to be stopped by the atmosphere, which there isn't any on the moon, so it's here on Earth, rather than the top illustration, which shows what should happen when dust is thrown out behind a wheel where there's no atmosphere to stop it. It'll go out and it will fall down. It won't stay suspended. It can't stay suspended. There's nothing to suspend it. It's attracted by gravity. So we have these anomalous pictures of the lunar rover trailing rooster tails of dust behind it. That is almost certainly, almost certainly a radio-controlled model.
So the one on the top is what we should see on the lunar surface.
Yeah, that's it.
And then
Yes.
the one on the bottom is what you see a dune buggy doing on the beach.
Yeah,
But actually, it's the one on the bottom that we see in the moon videos.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I see it very clearly.
exactly right. Now, if anybody can prove us wrong with that, give us your calculations to show
Yeah.
why on the moon we appear to have atmospheric resistance to the dust. Because there's no atmosphere on the moon, so there shouldn't be a resistance to it. And as I say, if you watch any rally car driving through a dusty surface, it's throwing up huge amounts of dust behind it.
Yes.
And especially if you get the trucks in the Paris-Dakar rally,
Yeah.
the dust lasts for minutes. It's just suspended in the air. That shouldn't happen on the moon. So they weren't on the moon.
Oh, okay, so this is very interesting. This one has a lot of details in this one. I'm just going to read part ways down. Uh, um, in page 116, the last paragraph. I'm not going to read the whole paragraph, but there's a commentary by an astronaut, Charles Duke, and the alleged driver of the lunar rover. And this is from Apollo 16, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Yeah, so the commentary is by astronaut Charles Duke, and the alleged driver of the lunar rover is fellow astronaut John Young. He says here, note in the commentary, Charles Duke mentions, quote, rooster tails coming from all four wheels. And you just explained what that was about, that cannot happen on a lunar surface. It can only happen on Earth by the ocean side.
Yeah, where there's an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate the point, a rooster tail is a term used in fluid dynamics to describe a high arching spray of water, dust, or snow that is thrown up behind a fast moving motorboat, motor vehicle, car, or skier.
Yeah.
So you see this when people are skiing down slopes. This post suggests how the video sequence may have been filmed, and you provide an app 16.02. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very good point that you have an astronaut here confirming exactly what you have just said in your book. He's actually confirming that, and actually, I think I don't know if it's an accident. I think it might have been on purpose that he's actually telling you that we filmed this sequence on the Earth's surface in a studio.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
And also, just to add to the nonsense of the whole thing, if you examine that particular sequence, the Apollo 16 Lunar Grand Prix, look at the driver of the rover. He's sitting in the left-hand seat of the two. Look at his left arm. It's stationary. It's fixed in that position the whole time that you can see him. It's just fixed in that position.
You can see it here. I think it's here. You can see it there.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see it there. And there's another photo, Marcus, I want to show first before I read the paragraph, because I wasn't going to read this one, but now it actually it follows with what we're talking about here. I want to show this paragraph, and you've actually drawn a line superimposed a line on top of it, and they're using this photo as proof that they were on the moon. And then I'll show the photo first, and then I'll read the paragraph on top. It's on page 119.
Okay.
So let's show the photograph first. Now
Yeah.
this is where my finger is. So this
Yeah.
is what they're saying. They're using this photo as proof that they were on a lunar surface. Okay. So
Yeah.
as proof. And you see the line here that Marcus has superimposed. Now they're using that, as Marcus described earlier, okay, as proof that they were on the moon. Now let me read the preceding paragraph. Here we see the photo that Paolo Attivissimo, I'm going to say that 10 times. Did I get his name right?
Paolo Attivissimo.
Attivissimo, yes, said was proof of astronauts being on the moon. We have indicated a parabolic arc that the dust should follow if the lunar rover were in the vacuum, but you can see this that it is not. Notice that the finer dust particles are thrown backwards from the wheels until they are brought to rest by the air resistance when they form dust clouds. These clouds then fall directly to the ground. The particles ejected from the wheel do not produce a parabolic arc. Now, this is I don't know if the viewer can see it here, but I'm going to describe it. You can actually see what Marcus is talking about here. If you look at, if I can get this in closer, look at
Yeah.
that.
There we go.
He's using a parabolic arc to prove his point, but he's not proving the point. He's generalizing. If you look at the actual dust particles, they're falling. Look how they're falling. They're falling because of resistance.
Yeah. They're being stopped by an atmosphere,
Yes,
and
and you can clearly see that it's up and down. It's not like it's not this way. It's this way.
Yeah, that's right.
Right,
It's
and you can clearly see it right there.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Now, and that also goes along with what I was saying about the astronaut holding his left arm up because he's using his right arm to steer with, apparently,
Yes.
which is why you don't see the right arm. But that is more than likely to be a radio-controlled model,
Yeah.
a dummy astronaut, a model, a mannequin.
Yes.
So the whole thing is a fraudulent depiction of the scene that NASA are trying to represent. It's filmed here on Earth under controlled conditions.
Yes.
And if you have a radio-controlled model, which is going to be about that long, there's some very good radio-controlled models available. You can get lots of pictures of them. And until you know that they are radio-controlled models, you think they're real. They look
Yes.
very real. They're built to look like the real thing, like trucks or cars, but they're models. And when the camera pulls back, and you see it, it's doing all sorts of wonderful little jumps and pirouettes. But it's a radio-controlled model, as this was, because that demonstrates that they got a lunar rover onto the lunar surface and drove it around. You wouldn't even need a very big set. Maybe 20, 30 foot long, that's all you'd need.
If you go to the last page of this chapter, 122, and you
Yep.
go down to the third paragraph, I actually highlighted midway down they try to convince you that rooster tails cannot appear in an atmosphere, but only in a vacuum, whereas the exact opposite of truth. They're trying to inverse it.
Yeah.
It's,
A
and
standard
talk about the world being upside down. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah. You don't get rooster tails in a vacuum.
Yeah, but they're trying to tell you it's the other way around. You do, but you don't on Earth. But if you get onto a beach, I've seen many dune buggies down at the beach, and I always see that rooster tail.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of these guys are getting desperate to prove themselves right.
We've got the answer. What I was actually witnessing at the beach was pockets of no air.
Yeah.
Right?
Vacuum.
I
Vacuum
mean,
on the beach.
it's kind of funny. It's kind of comical. I mean, it's all about what we mentioned earlier. It's this emotional attachment that people just can't let go, and then it's right in front of them. They just refuse. They just refuse. It's not that
Yeah.
they can't see it; they refuse to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anything else before we move on to chapter 17? We're making good
No, I think
progress here.
I think we've done well on that. We've proved that
Yeah,
that was filmed in air in atmosphere because of the rooster tails. We've also demonstrated that it was likely to be a radio controlled model with a
yeah,
dummy astronaut on it.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
film companies are very good at producing realistic looking models.
Yes.
That was used in Back to the Future, realistic models.
Yeah.
Anybody who's seen 2001: A Space Odyssey will know that models can be made to appear to be vast spaceships,
Yeah.
and that's the skill of a special effects director. I'm not saying the same special effects director worked on Apollo, but somebody who had sufficient skill most certainly did, because they knew
Yeah.
what to do. They
Yeah.
could produce the models, they could produce the mannequins, they could make it look realistic enough that people would believe it when NASA, never a straight answer, when NASA tells them that this is filmed on the moon. They believe
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, you've been misinformed. Apollo
And I
is
think,
Apollo is full of misinformation.
yeah. Yeah.
So you use critical thinking skills. Think of it logically. Look at it and ask yourself questions. Could this happen? Why did this happen? Have I been misled? That's all you have to do. And then maybe you'll decide that NASA have not done what they said they did, land humans on the lunar surface. They didn't.
To some of the Apollo proponents out there, I know that you're struggling with this, and I know you're sincere. There's some of you that are just absolute morons. I'm sorry. All right. So for those of you, the morons, not all of you, but the morons out there, and you know who I'm talking about, I ask you not to do this because you might strain yourself. Okay. That's all I have to say. Right.
Uh,
But to the others who are actually questioning it and people who are proponents, I've had some really nice proponents come on my channel. And I debated one recently, and what was his name? Uh, Bruce Cox, or his last name was Cox. I just his first name escapes me right now because I have so many names. I'm trying to, but I had a good debate with him.
yeah,
He seems to be somewhat sincere. He just seems to be genuinely questioning some of the aspect. He still believes in that the Apollo missions were real. He's talked about his emotional attachment to that. I give him credit for that.
yeah,
And he's talked about, um, he admits that there's some aspects of the Apollo missions that do require answers, and
yeah,
and he'll say that. So for with someone like him, Richard Cox, I think no, Richard Cox. See, there's two people with the last name Cox. Was the person who actually moderated the debate between us. He has the same last name as the one I debated, so I get their names mixed up. So Richard Cox, if I got your first name wrong, I apologize if you're watching this, but he definitely is someone I don't mind debating because he's he's open to at least the possibility. He's not there yet, but he's open to at least the possibility. And I haven't. I was supposed to do a second one with him, but I just too many things have gotten in the way. So if you're watching this video, we'll definitely think about another debate with the same moderator because he was pretty good. And the thing about the moderators is that he's basically on the fence himself. He's not sure, so he makes the perfect moderator. Whereas he's not taking sides, right? So just to let people know
yeah,
that I'm not directing my comments at all of the people who come on my channel and are questioning our work. I understand that. I welcome it. I actually welcome it. I like the debate. I like to talk back and forth with
yeah.
people who still believe in the Apollo missions. It's just keep it civilized. I actually like the back and forth, right? Marcus, is
Yeah.
there anything else on that before we move on to chapter 17? Because this is a fascinating chapter now coming up.
Yeah, no, I think we've covered it pretty well, covered the
Good.
main aspects of it.
Yes,
Anybody
I
make,
think we're
if somebody wants to comment on it, what we said, let's hear about it. You know,
yeah.
and if somebody can find that original model, I'd love to see it.
You know, we're doing really well here. We're up to chapter 17.
Okay.
Um, we'll end it on, I want to talk about chapter 17 and then we'll end the video
Yeah.
at that after that, and we'll continue next video with 18. And folks, I'll post this in this video in parts 1 and 2. So it's probably about an hour and 10 minutes. So I like to post it in 30-minute intervals. So I'll probably post like 40 minutes here and then the second part after
That's
this.
good.
So
Yeah. Okay.
we'll post it 1 and 2. So we'll end on chapter 17 because this is a good chapter to actually end with for now. And chapter 17 is how many photographs? Um, every paragraph in here is worth reading, but I took out the one that actually says it all to get us started, and that's the last paragraph on page 123.
Okay.
NASA wants the world to believe that 5,771 photographs could be taken in the total time of 4,834 minutes. That the astronauts were allegedly on the lunar surface during, and just a sec, Marcus, hold your thought there for a sec. I got to power up my computer before I lose there we go. Okay. I got an indication there. I was actually running low on battery, just added power. Okay, let me start again. So NASA wants the world to believe that 5,771 photographs could be taken in the total time of 4,834 minutes that the astronauts were allegedly on the lunar surface during all 6 missions. A little math will show you that it involves an astronaut to be taking a photograph every 50 seconds. Thus, this sounds feasible given all the other activities they were alleged to do. Wow, Marcus, that
Yeah.
is that is a very good point.
Yeah. No, obviously you can take many photographs if that's all you're doing. You use your camera, you put it up there. Don't forget their cameras were mounted on their chest most of the time. So they were just pressing the shutter button, which they could do quite frequently. It took about 2 seconds for the film to be advanced to the next frame. So what's the problem? It's all the other things they had to do. The 4,834 minutes was the total time spent on the lunar surface by all 12 astronauts on the 6 missions that allegedly landed. And the 5,771 photographs, which are currently available to view, every single one of them, on the lunar surface, not going to the moon, not coming back, not all the practice, just on the lunar surface, 5,771. You can count them. They're all up online now. That's how we can be very precise about it. If you take photographs, yes, you can take a lot of photographs. Using your camera on your chest, you press the button. 2 seconds later, you can press it again. 2 seconds later, you can press it again. But you've got to drive that lunar rover, and you're not going to be able to take photographs when you're driving a lunar rover. You've got to do other experiments, collect the rocks, plant the flag, talk to the president on Apollo 17, all the other things that they were doing, which didn't involve taking photographs. And one photograph that they seem to have omitted to take is a decent photograph of Earth.
Yeah.
You'd think, it's not like you going on holiday to New York and not photographing the Empire State Building
Yeah.
or the Statue of Liberty or any of the other sites which New York is famous for. Most people would do that if they're going on holiday. If you're going to the moon, about the only thing you can take a photograph of is where you've come from, planet Earth.
Exactly.
So
And why
why,
wouldn't they?
yes, why don't they use those big lenses they took with them? The 500 millimeter lenses.
I
mounted
mean,
on
what
a
are we talking about? We're talking about what, one or two photos of the Earth? I think there was what, one or two on Apollo 17?
yeah. Well, there were several
I
taken.
mean, from the lunar surface. I'm not talking
Yeah,
about in orbit.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
from the lunar surface.
yeah. I
So
mean, it just it amazes me. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean to, but it just amazes me. You're right. You bring up a very valid point, Marcus. You know, you go to New York, you photograph the Empire State Building.
yeah,
You go to when I went to New York, there were some land sites I wanted to visit. One was the John Lennon assassination site because that was I was such a Beatle fan, right? And I wanted to just kind of pay my respects. And then I went to Strawberry Fields, where the park, the Madison Park, Madison Square Park, is it called, after right across from where the Dakota Building is, because it's a landmark, and there's a section in there that's dedicated to the memory of John Lennon.
yeah.
That's what you do when you go to New York. You photograph these sites. I went to the Empire State Building. They took photos of the Empire State Building. Why wouldn't you take photos of the Earth from the lunar surface? I mean, really nice, big photos of the Earth. Like, this is where we came from, and I don't see that.
No, no, which is a bit strange. And
Yeah,
so we've got these photographs. There are lots of them. Yes, some of them were panoramas, which you can take quite fast. You know, an 18 photograph panorama would take about a minute to photograph. Well, it would actually take longer because if you're going to photograph a panorama, you've got to get each photograph to link with the previous one. And that's
yeah,
quite hard to do without a viewfinder.
yeah,
If you look at some of the panoramas that were being shown, there are several of them on most of the missions. They did a panorama. I start over here and take photographs moving around. That's a half panorama. I mean, it's something quite a lot of people do.
yeah,
I've done it myself, taking panoramas, but you've got to make sure the photographs overlap, not by very much, but enough so that when you develop them and print them out, you can make sure that they link up. Now, without a viewfinder, that's actually quite hard to do. It's not hard to take a photograph without a viewfinder, one photograph, but not a panorama that links together, which is one of the major problems that they've got. Yeah, it's nice to have a panorama, but you've got to make sure you get it right. Now, if you haven't got a viewfinder, you can't get it right. You can't be sure of getting it right. And let's face it, if you're on the moon, you can't go back and do it all again if you messed it up the first time.
yeah,
Well, that's what we're told, that they went
yeah,
there the first time. So those panoramas are almost certainly fraudulent photographs, because I challenge anybody to take an 18 photograph panorama using, in this case, the Hasselblad 500 EL medium format camera, 70mm camera, without a viewfinder and get
yeah,
every photograph to overlap. No, not just one or two, but all of them by just the right amount. And I call that a fake.
yeah,
Demonstrated what they were trying to show, that they got man on the moon and he was in this environment which had a few mountains in the back. The Apollo 15 one had mountains in the back. Apollo 17 had a few mountains in the back. But to take that photograph, that panoramic photograph, linking them all together, overlapping them by correct amount or slight amount, is very difficult to do. And I call them out on that. And as you read in your introduction there are 5,771 photographs taken on the lunar surface. Not all of them were good. Some were out of focus. Some didn't show very much of interest. Some of them were actually damaged. Light struck, it's called, where light entered into the film as they took it out of the magazine. Well, that's what we're told happened. Some of them are duplicated. And they had a lot of other things to do. They had rocks to collect. They had flags to plant. They had rovers to drive. They had to get in and out of their lander. So there's not a lot of time to take all these photographs. in the time available. So what's the
That
answer?
So that is actually a point that you further reiterate in the next paragraph that I'd like to end with that paragraph because it really puts into perspective what you're talking about in terms of the limited time they would have had to take half those photos, let alone over 5,000. And if I could just read here the top of 124, second paragraph.
Yeah.
The astronauts had a very pressing schedule of experiments to be set out and performed, significant amounts of rocks to collect, and in most missions, considerable distances to be traversed on foot or in later missions, riding up to 20 kilometers on the lunar rover at a top speed of about 13 kilometers per hour, about 8 miles per hour. On Apollo 17, the rover traveled 35.9 kilometers in 4 hours and 26 minutes total drive time. All of these ancillary activities reduced the time even further for taking photographs. The idea of a photograph every 50 seconds is therefore becoming unrealistic. I mean, it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
when you add in, as you just mentioned, when you add in all the extra work that they were doing, um, 50 seconds is generous.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
it's not- it's I'll say it right now. You don't need to be a scientist to say this. It's unrealistic. It's impossible. You're on another planet. You're in a different environment, a very hostile environment. Anything can go wrong at a moment's notice.
yeah.
All right. You should be tiptoeing around on that surface, making sure not to fall and puncture your suit, because if that happens, you're dead. Right.
Yeah.
You're just not going to, there's no rescue. There was no fallback position. There was no rescue apparatus involved. Anything happened, you're gone. You're finished. Right. And yet, supposedly, you narrow that 50 seconds down on average down to about 20 seconds. I mean, it's incredible that they had managed to, with precision, take these photos. And as you explained with the panoramic view, that requires precision as well, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely impossible given just going by the official narrative and given the activities that then they're scheduling that and the experiments and the activities that they were doing, absolutely impossible. That right there should close the chapter on this
Yeah.
once and for all.
And
Yeah.
don't forget, they were wearing their gloves. They were using their cameras, wearing their hard, heavy-duty gardening gloves. That's my heavy-duty gardening glove. It's similar in size, and I mean that's about as far as I can move it, and that's outside a vacuum.
Yeah.
So they were using their cameras with this to press the shutter button or to move the little levers on the focus rings or the aperture ring or the shutter speed ring. That's what they were using. They were not using their hands, which is much easier to use. They were using these. Come on, it's just nonsense.
It is. It is. And as you just demonstrated there, you're doing that in a very friendly environment, an environment that you know very well. And you're sitting down and you could take your time, but on the lunar surface, that's a hostile environment, an alien world.
Yep.
Unbelievable that what we're expected to believe. I mean, that in and of itself should tell everybody that really NASA overextended the narrative on that one. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a giveaway right there. So anyway, Marcus, I really appreciate our video talk today, and this will probably be posted in probably part one and part two.
Good.
And I do want to look forward to our next one. We're getting through your book here, so we're doing
Yeah.
well.
Oh, it's
So
29 chapters.
yep,
That's 29.
yep, and
Well
we're
over
almost we're
Yeah.
well over halfway. So I'm going to definitely, and I'll put the link down below of your website you told me about. I put that down below as well on page 17.
Yeah. Page
Um,
7.
Yeah. So, anyway, anything before we go, Marcus?
Just one final statement. No human has ever landed on the lunar surface, walked across it, and returned to Earth. Not possible, never happened, not going to happen for a long time to come. And if anybody can prove me wrong when I say that, I want to hear about it. So put your comments below this video and let's hear them. The evidence, not the straw man arguments, not the ad hominem attacks. Let's just get the evidence to prove me wrong. I waited 30 years for it. I'm getting quite excited. It could happen any minute now. So thank you for the opportunity, Randy. It's much appreciated.
A perfect place to end this video. I look forward to all the responses to Marcus' statement there. Thank you, Marcus. And until the next time, looking forward to our next video. And to everybody out there, I just want to thank you all for watching. Those that haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. And also check us out on BitChute. I have a BitChute channel there as well. And one footnote to our talk, I'm going to be redoing the cover of my book, my third book. I just didn't like the way the cover is on this, so I'll keep you all updated on that. But anyway, I look forward to all the comments to Marcus, response to Marcus's comments here. Marcus, thank you very much, and we'll see you all again in the next video. Bye for now.
Your love's just like a wrecking ball going back and forth in a line from you.